Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Scarif Live, and I'm not Ro. Andrew from Coruscant Radio Underground in the science fiction area, and I've got the keys to the car tonight. So, Don, what are we going to talk about?
I believe that we are going to talk about the Matrix franchise.
I think so. We'll give people a few minutes to trickle in here and see who shows up. But I mean, are you have you been a fan of the trilogy or?
Yeah,
Uh,
since the very first one.
okay, yeah. Actually, I listened to you talk about it the other day. I was there during your all's live stream when you talked a little about the trailer, but I was never a huge fan of the second and third movie, but I did rewatch the third movie today, and I liked it better than I remembered liking it before.
Yeah. Um, I always kind of thought that the second one was the weakest of the series.
On rewatch, I might agree. I still think that it kind of took some strange twists and turns to get to where it ended. That kind of seemed contrary to where the first movie went. But upon rewatching the third movie, I think I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, the second one kind of meanders a little bit and it relies heavily on I forget their names, the two ghost guys.
Right? Yeah, I can't think of their names either.
They had a cool movie trick and they wanted to make sure that they beat it to death.
Right. It's a really interesting. I mean, they did some. Of course, the movie at the time that it came out, the first movie. I mean, it's kind of one of those mind blowing. Uh, you know, it's a really important moment in film history.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so what's up? Let's see who's in the chat. We got Lunar Girl and Hector in the chat, and we're gonna get this thing going in just a minute. So for those of you who are in the chat already, are you fans of the original Matrix movies?
We're all being quiet, like we're waiting for him to say something.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, Hector.
I was listening. It sounds like someone's in my house, and I just hope it's my wife and kids.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, it's we're gonna give us just a second, give Marisha a chance to come in here and sit down, and then we'll kick this thing off for real. But did you see the original? I'm assuming you probably saw the original in the theater.
yeah, opening night.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I can't wait to talk a little about it. I mean, there's the amount of religious imagery in the movies, and the amount of the Alice in Wonderland through the Looking Glass stuff, and
Hmm.
there's a lot going on in those movies, and I'm kind of intrigued by the new trailer, but it's something just feels different about it.
Yeah, it definitely is coming from a different angle, I think.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and fire this thing up for real, and we will talk about the Matrix.
Sounds good.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
And welcome again to not Coruscant Radio. It's the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. I'm Andrew from the Science Fictionary podcast. We've got Don from the Escape Pod, and joining us at the last second here, Marisha just popped in the room, and we're going to take a dive into the Matrix. So I mentioned a second ago that the originals were kind of this like they're this really important moment in film history because of the cinematic techniques. I mean, action films have been trying to emulate the Matrix ever since. You know, it's kind of like it's one of those big important films. It's like people tried to emulate Star Wars forever. People have tried to emulate Jurassic Park forever. People have and are still trying to emulate the Matrix. So let's start off talking about that. I mean, what do you think it was about the visual style that really set this movie apart and made it something special?
It was really that what do they call it? The bullet motion. No, that's not the right word for it. But it was essentially the being able to create a 3D image and then move around it.
Yeah, freeze that image and then show multiple perspectives. And that's what they did really, really well. And of course, the whole thing is just visually interesting. They
Bullet
were
time
very,
technique.
yeah, tons of stuff going on with imagery, the color palette of the movies being that very green hue to everything, getting the attention to detail with things that they put in the backgrounds of shots was very interesting. I mean, they're always giving you little clues and hints as to what's going on in the back.
It's another one of those things that it's like Star Wars. It's become just sort of part of the cultural lexicon. You see 3 cars in a row that are all the same make and model and color, and you go, oh no, it's a glitch in the Matrix, right? It's one of those things that in the visual style was so incredibly distinct that those details have just become, just something that people just take for granted, as
Right.
everybody obviously knows. I mean, I didn't see the Matrix till I was an adult, but I sure enough knew what a glitch in the Matrix meant. 2 identical dogs. It's just it's a bizarre. It's one of those things that even if you weren't into it when it came out, it was so big. And that moment with that bullet time shot that you're talking about, it's another one of those things. Like I said, I didn't see the movie when it came out. It just wasn't really my kind of thing. But you couldn't not see that shot. You couldn't not know what it was. So yeah, really, it's just such an important cultural piece, visually especially.
Yeah. So one of the things I kind of mentioned is lots of stuff going on thematically, things in the background, things that are very heavy-handed, even with religious context. And I mean, what do y'all think about that? Because I mean, kind of, I think the 2 major things that are kind of playing here. I know a lot of people compare it. You can go find 1.5 hour, 2 hour long videos on how it's a retelling of Alice in Wonderland. And I know Roe had some things about that here in the notes, but that's not something I've ever really gone down. I mean, there's tons of Alice in
Never gone
Wonderland.
down that rabbit hole.
I've never gone down that rabbit hole. I went way down some rabbit holes getting ready for tonight, though. But there's lots of Alice in Wonderland imagery, especially at the beginning of the first movie, and I'm seeing a lot of it again in this new trailer. But I guess starting there, I mean, what do y'all think about the Alice in Wonderland imagery and the thematic concepts?
I think that's the dark side of Oz kind of concept. Like, you familiar with listening to Pink Floyd while
Yeah.
watching Wizard of Oz?
Yep.
I think it's just wanting human nature to want to see patterns that they've already seen,
Right.
attribute patterns to things that they've already. I mean, there's similarities, but you got to stretch for them.
Yeah. I mean, the Alice in Wonderland stuff, I mean, you do get the one that's really on the nose is the white rabbit tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
You
But
also
that's a
get the
reference.
It's a reference. You also get the a moment where they literally step through a looking glass, step through the mirror. But there, and of course, the red pill and the blue pill. I actually like one of the things I do like about this new trailer is the use of Jefferson Airplane. I can't think of what is the name of the actual song. Is it the White Rabbit, or is it? But it's about that. The song that they play is a Jefferson Airplane song about the hallucinogenic and transforming uses of medication, of pills. And but I think
That is
the
the name
thing,
of the song, White Rabbit.
White Rabbit. Okay. So there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like, and we've talked about this a lot with Star Wars.
Yes, Charles Jefferson Starship.
Some of the best and in the most iconic pieces of pop culture are the ones that really that they riff on familiar themes. They reference familiar writings, familiar concepts, familiar myths, and I think that kind of references back to Alice in Wonderland are kind of one of the things that make the Matrix. It's one of those things you latch on. I got that reference, right? It's one of those things. The first time you see it, you say, "Oh, I got that reference," and people like to feel like they're in the know, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's one of the things initially with the Matrix, that kind of makes it maybe feel a little more grounded because it's so weird and so otherworldly. But it's referencing this same weird otherworldly thing that you're familiar with. So it kind of gives you a heads up you're going down the rabbit hole.
Hey, Ro, is Marisha's mic better now?
Can Marisha be heard? I'm sorry, Marisha was not here for sound check. Marisha is working on movie and schedules are weird.
But so and I kind of in agreement. I think there's some really interesting references to Alice in Wonderland, but I don't really see a retelling of Alice in Wonderland in here. But I think the one that is more prevalent, and I think sort of heavy-handed for this type of stuff, is Neo as a Christ figure. And the religious aspects. I mean, it's almost a gospel retelling in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'll agree to that for sure.
I actually wrote down the things that I could remember, and I actually found one that I'd never found before. His name, Thomas A. Anderson. Anderson literally means the Son of Man. And the middle name is, and then the middle initial is meant to signify that there's potentially more than one version. And we already knew this was the sixth version of the Matrix that we see in the original. I guess the new movie will take place in the seventh iteration of the Matrix. And they even talk about that the first version of the Matrix. Agent Smith says the first Matrix was created to be a place, a perfect world for humanity. And that it was a disaster. We get all the themes of death and resurrection. We see Morpheus as a kind of a prophet, a John the Baptist type figure. Trinity kind of as a representative of the Holy Spirit. And we see a couple of times.
A little on the nose too.
Do what? The name's really on the nose. I mean, there's several really on the nose names. Trinity in the first one. I don't remember when we first meet Seraph. Yeah. But that's a pretty on the nose reference.
Zion, we're gonna go
right, the holy city, Jerusalem.
Knows that we're marching to beautiful, beautiful Zion, right?
Right. So, what do y'all think about that? I mean, the religious aspects that seem to work their way. I mean, if you look at the first movie by itself, you really see the full story told. I often actually wonder if there were no real plans for a second and third movie, and the first one just was so big they could not do it. Because you told the whole story with the first one, and then you spent the next two movies trying to stretch it out.
Which, I mean, that's the fallacy of sequels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's like the classic sequel conundrum. Is like, oh wait, it was so big, but sometimes it was so so perfect and in and of itself that whenever you try and recapture it, doesn't always especially if they give you a good ending. Whenever you have a really good ending and then you go back and be like, but somehow Palpatine returned. It's like, well, hang on now.
Right. But when you did Empire, I mean, that was always the risk with doing Empire Strikes Back. Was A New Hope was such a big movie, and you could have really fouled it up with the sequel, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And I always felt like these two, the second and third movie, just even though like I said, the second one I was always kind of okay with. The third one upon rewatch, I like better than I did originally. I just feel like they never lived up to that first movie.
Yeah, I think it's fundamentally impossible. What I was going to say about the whole religion aspect, I think that the Wachowskis intended to use the allegories towards religion as another construct of the Matrix. I think it was
That's a good.
all part of the snake eating the tail kind of thing they were going for.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with the. I mean, there's some in the third movie. There's some really in the first one too. The first and third movie have some really on the nose, especially when he dies in the third movie. We see the angel's wings behind him. Then we see a image of the cross. We get all of that right there.
It's another one of those things, though. It's
Followed
so-
by the machine proclaiming that it's done, it's finished.
Yeah.
So a lot of really cool religious aspects. But to keep moving forward here, like the world has changed a lot since the Matrix came out. Cell phones were just really kind of becoming a thing. They were nowhere near like today where we're all walking around with a computer in our pocket.
Right.
Oh, and all those brick phones, you remember? You could like use it for a hockey puck and not break it.
Yep.
Those were the days.
So
Well, the coolest phone in this whole trilogy is the one that he pushes the button and it goes.
yeah. So how does that affect the way that we view something like the Matrix? The fact that technology was we're so far ahead now of where we were when this movie came out. How does that affect the way that we look at something like the Matrix?
I think it all just reinforces the concepts that they were going for in the first place. As far as we're just living more and more in computers at this point. The idea of the human race surrendering itself to its computer overlords,
Right?
is more and more probable.
And
Yeah,
who
at this
would have
point.
thought that would be like a real conversation that people have regularly? Is the technological overlords and how much power should they have in our lives? I
Right.
mean, that's 20 years ago. I mean, who would have thought, oh, whenever I'm in my 30s, these are going to be real conversations people are going to have. Like teenage me would never have believed that. It's one of the things I sent Andrew a meme that was talking about, whenever your people call you conspiracy theorist and then you turn out to be right. He was one of those people who was saying things like that, years, and now it's like, oh, well, look, here we are. Like, you called it.
So Charles wanted to know if there was a red Clad character in the trailer, and I don't remember. Actually, before we answer that, let me. I've got another person in the back room here. I've got Todd from WSTR.
Hey,
Let's get him
Todd.
in
What's
here.
up? What's up? What's
Hey,
up?
birthday boy, how you doing?
What's happening? What's happening? Thought I'd enjoy the fun a little bit,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So we're kind of currently talking about the way things have changed, technology wise in our own world
Yes.
here, and kind of
Yeah.
how that affects the way that we look at this at a movie like The Matrix.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, the one shot where they're looking out, like they have that kind of elevator shot, and it's pretty telling of what goes on currently. Like everyone's just like sucked into their device, and that's pretty much what goes on now. So I kind of like that social commentary,
Yeah.
Well, not to mention, like, RPGs were literally, I mean, I've known people whose entire, like, real life where they eat and drink and have families centers around their digital existence.
Yes.
What their character is doing in their digital world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, however you feel about it, that is definitely.
Yeah. So we've all voluntarily plugged ourselves into the Matrix.
Yeah, we're plugged in. Yeah, we're plugged in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like sometimes you have to remind yourself every once in a while, like, Twitter's not totally real. There's like
Right.
other things going
Right.
on, and I think that's where sometimes it is good to unplug and not just be like, okay, all this stuff that's going on social media, it is real to an extent, but it's not the real world, and no one honestly cares if you have 7,000 followers or 7 followers. In the real world, that really doesn't matter. I mean, obviously there are some extremes to that where you become kind of popular or whatever in the realm, and then that kind of translates into real world. But at the end of the day, it's like, you're still a person, you still are contributing to society, and they don't need you plugged into the phone like 100% of the time, or like you said, or
Right.
like video, or like plugged into like a video game or something like that, where you're like, oh, I got to get my character leveled up or whatever that is. Those are things that don't really necessarily play into the real world, so.
Yeah. So I mean, in some ways, it's like the Matrix was kind of accurate with some of its predictions. I mean, obviously, we don't have machines from AI that has taken over the world, at least that we're aware of, but
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
are yet.
Yeah.
But we've all plugged in, and we're all very attached to that, and it's really easy to get lost in that world and ignore the things around you in the real world.
Yeah, because
Um,
I mean, they're important, but it's not like that important.
Right, right.
Have any of you guys ever played any MMORPGs?
I have not. Andrew, I believe, has.
I have not really, because I have always been a little bit. When I was in college was when World of Warcraft got really, really big, kind of its first big hurrah, and I had so many classmates that failed out because they couldn't pull themselves away from it. And I know how I am with video games, where I will, especially story-based games, where I will sit down and just play and play and play. I'll play Civilization, and it's kind of like, Civilization, their motto is one more turn.
Right.
And I'm terrible about that. I'll sit here and go, okay, just one more turn, and those turns get longer and longer as you go, and all of a sudden it's 3 or 4 in the morning. It's like, oh my god, I got to work in just a few hours, and
Right.
I mean, you were playing 20 hours. I mean, you were.
I mean, and yeah, I mean,
you
when I
played
first
Halo
when I
for
first
what?
moved home from college, I would work all day. I would come home, get dinner, and log into Halo, and I would play Halo till 3 or 4 every morning, and then get up and go back to work the next morning.
What's wrong with that picture?
Nothing until you get married.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. I had the same.
I had,
Andrew, I had the same conversation, man. I was like, well, what do you
Yes.
think when I was going on when you went to bed? I was playing video games, but
right.
Alas.
it's kind of like in
Alas,
Star
I
Wars. You
could've-
got to have balance. It's all about
Yes,
balance.
I put a real
Yes.
damper on Andrew's video game life.
Yep. I faced the fact I will never be that good at a game again,
Ah,
because I can't log 10 hours a day.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But kind of, let's get into the new trailer a little bit here, and I want to start off. Charles had asked a question up here,
About a red clad figure.
whether there were any red clad figures in the trailer. Did y'all catch anyone? Because there are a
didn't.
number of characters that are blue clad.
Okay.
There's a lot of blue imagery, but I don't remember seeing anyone dressed in red.
I don't either.
I don't remember seeing anybody dressed in red either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there was, and I missed it. I'll have to rewatch it again. There's a lot in there. I've rewatched it several times, and I keep catching more and more little things.
Well,
Right.
of course. I mean, it wouldn't be the Matrix if it weren't layers and
Right.
layers deep
Yeah.
visuals.
Right.
Shit to catch.
So, given what we know about the original 3 movies, what do you think is going on in this trailer? I mean, because there's a number of things that had happened. Trinity died at the end of the last movie. Neo died, or at least we don't know what happened to Neo. Neo disappears.
Based again on Twitter, because that's That's the source of truth. I think this falls in between 1 and 2. It's kind of like a soft reboot.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think that's if I again that's only what I've read on the old interwebs, but I think it's somewhat in between because like you said, like I was shocked too. Like wait, she doesn't recognize him. Like what's that about? I don't know. I mean it's kind of hard. It's the same thing that you kind of get stuck with like in Star Wars. It's like, well, where do you go from here when technically that trilogy ended? What do you do when you're bringing those characters back? And so it was interesting to see Trinity not recognize Neo, and you're like, okay, and then Neo's not understanding who he is. He's having an identity crisis too. So it's like, okay, something else is going on here. He can't be because like again, like at the end, the machines and the they get along. Everyone's getting along. It's a happy kind of ending, somewhat, in 3.
For as long as it lasts. What does she
Right.
say? As long as it can last.
Yes, right. Because we know that Neo's not the first one.
Right. And so that's the I guess that's kind of the question. Like if this is going backwards, then Neo can still be the one, but if we're in the 7th iteration of the Matrix,
Yes.
we need to see then is he somehow beginning a role in someone else's journey to being
Yeah.
the one.
Morpheus.
But then you kind of go into this thing where it's like, well, how are they going to get that all done in one movie?
Right. And so there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of stuff to answer, and it's the more I think about it, the more confused I get.
Yeah. Where it says it's the
Because, I mean,
worlds version
I-
of
Welcome to the Matrix.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Right.
think that's part of it. I think that's part of it. It's what you put into it as well. So if you look at the first Matrix, it could be an action movie, it could be a spiritual journey, it could be just cool sci-fi. There's a lot of different layers. And so I think that's where in this one too, I think it's the same thing. I mean, visually it looks amazing. Now we're a couple years with technology, and I think that's super exciting from a filmmaking perspective. There's a lot that they could do, and so there's even a shot where when he looks in the mirror, he's actually looking like at an old Neo, like his old self, and it's like real quick. And then the other kind of cool visual one was like, it almost seemed like Trinity was in the real world when she kind of did like when she kind of split in it almost seemed like she wasn't in the Matrix, and I don't know, it just seemed like something kind of cool there visually, like what she was doing there. So
the character that's all dressed in red is the new Morpheus character.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one too, because I've seen some suggesting when you see him, you kind of see him being created, if I'm not mistaken. Like there's a lot of people that think that he is actually a code within the Matrix.
Okay.
And honestly, I'm not sure that Neo's not a code within the Matrix.
Say what?
Like he wakes up though.
But I mean, if we're doing this, if we're doing the 4th, the last time we saw him was
that's
in the
true.
machine world.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. He could actually, basically, his essence could have.
And so if they
created
tried
the
to,
Matrix.
they've basically had to recreate this world over and over and over again to try to get it right.
Yeah.
And so what if to try to get it right this time, they actually built Neo into the code?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because the whole thing with the code was this always, we have the Oracle and the Architect, and there's always this strive for balance, or at least there's always one that's trying to balance and one that's trying to unbalance things.
Well,
in the case of
and essentially hope is built into that was the missing element. Like that was like they had to have hope in a sense, for them to essentially live in the Matrix and the machines live off of them. There had to be some kind of hope in this Matrix. And so I think that, those are the iterations that they kept on trying to figure out, but it definitely seems like it's recycled, right? So
yeah. Let me, I've got one more in the green room here. I'm going to bring in 97 Bravo.
Heyo.
What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Hey.
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. Ro left me the keys to the car, so
Oh no! I think I came in at a very good time. I was listening to you guys on the way home. I'm later than I wanted to be, but yeah, man, you guys are getting into the good stuff. I think between getting out of the car and logging in, I think Todd was hitting all the notes. I was like, oh, gotta get there. I missed the chunk, and then I was like, it's good to be here. Good stuff. Please continue. You were on a roll.
all right. So, but yeah, I mean, we're kind of just now diving into the new trailer. So, I mean, what are you seeing in the trailer as far as like what do you think's going on? When is this taking place?
Okay, so my initial impression, because there was a mutual. She made a comment, I made a comment, but basically, I think where it's at is like it's a construct of a construct of a construct. So you guys were kind of, well, I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm just saying that everyone's kind of hitting around it. What I think this is like it's this uber level of the construction, maybe not the base level, but like way up there where they have perfected it. So what we saw in, I forget what, 99 was a version,
Right.
One universe as we know it, whereas this is going to be, for lack of a better term, a multiverse where we're going to see who are the, using MCU terms, who are the Watchers, who are the this, who are the that. I think that's what they're trying to do, because I think where they went wrong with 2 and 3 is they went from the movie being here with cerebralism as far as action, like there was this cool new balance that we were like, whoa, and then technology and all that stuff. I don't know if you guys hit on this aspect of it, but and then all of a sudden 2 and 3 went whoop with the cerebral. And we were like, are we seriously just stopping everything for 20 minutes and we're just talking in a white room? That's what we're doing. You know what I mean? That I was like,
and then like, Trinity died for 30 minutes.
It was so I think 2 and 3 take you out of the Matrix. I think 2 and 3 I think they got too big for their britches based off of what they like, this grandiose idea that they had to write behind the original. And we had no context, and they were like, hey, there's all this. And we were like, it's only 2.5 hours. Let's slow down. What are we doing? And it just didn't feel, I felt like just a huge difference.
Yeah, I do like, though, the idea of, like the program's trying to find love and like the kind of werewolf vampire thing trying to be explained. I kind of liked all those elements. It was just like I'm kind of with you. It's like it kind of took you out a little bit, but there are some
the ghosts in the machines and stuff like that. They tried to do some IT, right?
Yeah, and there's stuff there that is pretty cool. Obviously, like visually too, like if we're talking from a technical perspective, where they built a highway for that whole chase scene with the keys. The key guy is like, dude, this is fantastic. This is amazing.
Well, and that was the thing too,
amazing,
right. But then when some of the complaints with like the prequels and stuff with Star Wars was it too CGI? Was it too much? And the fact that all that stuff and Ro and I have talked about this, where there's too much in the trailers. There's too much candy given away for free before the store opens. And so by the time you get there, you're like, I'm kind of full. And so when the movie comes out, it's less than huge in your like expectations, because you're like, you almost know the beats of the movie. And with this one, I felt there was enough of a tease. There was another movie just recently too that did like 30 seconds. And I was like, perfect, leave it, stop it. Don't do anything else. And it was weird and it was mysterious and on that kind of thing. And I was like, that's perfect. 3.5-minute trailers.
Well, like
I'm having a problem with, but this one was.
What was the last?
This one did well.
What was the last Terminator movie where they basically gave the plot? You're like, dude.
Oh, Dark Fate, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
You're like,
just
okay. So he dies, she dies. This is what.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I mean, again, I'm old. It happens. you didn't know about movies until you went to the trailer. Like I remember vividly, like going to the theater. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this Jurassic Park? Like this is like the coolest thing.
Right.
Like I'm ready. I'm ready. But then like now, it's an event. It's a zeitgeist. It's like everything it's all marketing. It's like, oh, here's this thing. But then they forget like that mysterious part that we want to be teased. We want to see some images that don't literally correlate with the whole story, but it's enough to get you excited. But we don't need to see the whole plot in the trailer. It's just like,
because with our age, because our age group, it's like the way everything was packaged. I remember, to your point, it was like we used to purposefully get in Los Angeles. Well, we got the Los Angeles Times. I wasn't in Los Angeles, but we'd get the LA Times, and so every Sunday was this spread, especially in the summertime, of all the movies coming out, and it was newspaper, and it wasn't a magazine, and it was in color on Sundays, and it was like, we're like, what's this movie in 2 weeks? And that was the first time you heard about it,
right?
And you were like, and there was just that sort of boop, that short curve of, I guess we're interested in this now. Magazines couldn't do it because it was like a month and a half or something before they got to you, so there was like, it was played so differently. And then as we get into the digital age, it's like, no, really, you don't have to show us. It's an hour and a half movie. Don't show us 3.5 minutes of it already. Right. That's, I don't know.
And then, now we're getting to the point where, because of obviously with COVID and everything, like these movies are baked. They're already done. And now we're, with like Maverick, we got like 5 release dates. It's like, no.
2 years.
It's going to be like 2 years, when this movie was probably shot in like 2019 or 2018. And now it's like
June.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to come out in 19, and then normal production, they said no, we'll put it out in 2020. Yes. COVID hit, and they said nope, and then it was boop. It got pushed till right. It's
so now
but 2 years,
you have a movie that's already done. You have already done, and now it's going to be like three years removed from actually like when they probably filmed it and whatever. So it's like
Mission Impossible is that way too. Same thing with Mission Impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, COVID has definitely changed the landscape on how films are released.
But Matrix was, I didn't hear anything.
No, I didn't hear anything about this one.
No. What did you guys?
Yeah, and that's good.
Right.
I mean, I knew they were gonna. I knew they were gonna film 4. I knew that was happening, but like, I kind of like the mysterious stuff. I mean, again, like the fact that, like if we go back to Mandalorian and that baby Grogu is like, we didn't know nothing about nothing. That is like, that's a special moment, and you want to have those moments not only on the small screen, but you want to have it on the big screen. And going back to the trailer reveals, like just keep it like, we want to see stuff. Obviously, we want to see stuff because that creates buzz. But like, I don't need to know the plot. Just give me a bunch of cool images. Like, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea.
But not only that, and this goes back to my angst with Star Wars, is that J.J. Abrams, I'll never forgive him for this, even though I adored The Force Awakens, rather.
Yes.
When it first came out, in the moment, I absolutely adored it.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I will damn J.J. to hell, because he had that one trailer with Luke's voiceover. I have that power. My dad had that power. My sister has that power. You have that power too. And everyone went, oh, and it was this whole lead up. And it was before we saw Finn. Dun and dun. And it was just the beats, that trailer. Yeah. It was Luke's voiceover.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh. And then as Force Awakens happened, the way it was presented to us with that in the back of our minds, even though it was never touched upon again, we go into it after Force Awakens and go, well, she's either a Kenobi or a Skywalker. She has the Force, quite obviously, that kind of, and she's part of a lineage, but it's pointing to Luke. Nope.
Yeah.
But
somehow Palpatine returned.
Right.
And that's an example of being too big for your britches, or having ideas that weren't solidified, or doing too much, But 3.5 minute trailer.
Always contend though, based on that trailer, that was the plan for that trilogy originally. Was like, you will never convince me otherwise, because there was no reason to release that trailer that way unless that's the direction they were going.
Yeah, I would also say, why would you have marketing too with like Finn holding a lightsaber?
Lightsaber.
early.
You just established him as the first black stormtrooper we're gonna see, and now he's holding a lightsaber. I mean,
I mean,
everyone's going Mace Windu. We're just starting ticking things off like, oh, the lineages. You know what I mean? And no surprise.
Well, I don't even. Yeah, I'm not even. I don't even care about bloodline. I just think it's like a cool concept that you have somebody that is from the First Order Empire and like he's going against it and like finding himself. That's a cool concept. Cool, But then you have this marketing. You have this marketing, and then it's like it goes this totally different swerve. And so, I think again, bringing it back to Matrix. I think it's like the less we don't need like another. Because the other thing that was happening too with Star Wars is like, as we got closer, it was like all these TV spots, and you get like another second of footage and another second of footage, and like there's like 18 TV spots, and you like, okay, now I'm getting like the whole movie. Like, just guys, we're gonna see it, or you're gonna get HBO Max, and you're gonna see it on your couch. It's fine. Just like. Don't show us everything,
And as a consumer, that's what I've chosen to do. I get the little bits, and I'm like, that's cool, and I just leave it. And I will see things, and for big stuff, I want to be teased, but at the same time, I am going to complain if you give me 4.5 minutes of the movie. Really, but I will be there. It's tap the arm. I'm the druggie who's there. Yes, give me more, whatever. But at the same time, it is. We need to complain. We need to make our voices heard and those kinds of things and say, really, let's really back it up to the 80s kid. Cause it was, what were they? 50-second spots.
Yeah.
And 25-second spots.
It was that same guy that passed away. I forget his name. I forget. He always did all the trailers.
With the boys,
coming this summer. Like,
but that was like when the movie started, when they said it did, but the trailers were before the movie. So you got there like 30 minutes before the time on the paper told you to be there.
Yep.
That was when you saw your trailer. So people were like, did you see Star Wars? The new whatever was attached to it. Go see the trailer. Go. And it was this hype train, but it was so momentary and so finite that it was like, how do you recapture that? It's not with 3.5 minute trailers. That's for damn sure.
No. Yeah.
So let's go back. Let's get that snippet and that fire because we did it. We'd see these trailers. We'd see these snippets. Schwarzenegger was known for it. We'd see snippets and go, oh, that looks good. We'd get in and go, that was horrible.
That was horrible.
Or it was an 80s movie and you're like, it was okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing out and you were young and you're like, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Want to go see another one? Yeah, let's go sneak in. That was it.
But I think, again, that's just like how we're consuming entertainment now, so it's a lot.
By a fire hose.
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
it's just.
I mean, we have trailers for trailers now. So.
Right.
You remember when Rogue One came out and none of the movie was in the trailer?
Yeah.
Then there was that.
Hey, I'm still bitter about the AT-ACTs shooting at them on the beach. I'm like, where's that in the film? Or like Krennic walking
that
like,
long dramatic run, like they were D-Day going against crossing Normandy Beach. It was like that.
Yeah.
That was not
and
as
like,
extended.
The TIE fighter coming up on them when they're on the tower.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that would have been that. Tell me, when you guys saw that for the first time, that TIE fighter, oh man, I think that was
this is going down.
Just on the other side of Force Awakens, I was like, they're gonna kill this. I was like, no, I didn't expect Vader, and that blew me away in theaters. But yeah, when I saw that TIE fighter, and then it wasn't in there, there were a few moments like that with Rogue One.
Right. Well, so the
Vader made it right
trailer,
though.
The first trailer again. A lot of that is cut because they totally redid the back half of the movie. All right.
Right.
And then the TIE fighter shot is literally trailer bait. Total trailer bait. They finally came out and said, that was just almost like a swerve, and it's like, then why are you spending all this money? Why are you spending all this money on special effects and getting it to look like amazing? And it's literally just for the trailer.
Well, it's the same reason in the MCU. What was it? Endgame? It was. It might have been Endgame, but for sure for Infinity War, I know that they had shots from the movie where they digitally removed characters. So as they were doing certain things, you wouldn't correlate that But Endgame is a perfect example.
Well,
certain people were alive or dead or apart, or where's so and so? Why is he with her and she with him? And there's none of that. And so Hulk was removed. What was it? No, Hulk was in the original one, but it turns out to be Banner in the Hulk suit when the movie comes.
Oh yes, when
Stuff like that. You remember?
It's that big hero shot when they're all coming towards the camera. And
They're all
Hulk's
running in the jungle,
yeah.
and they're everywhere.
Yeah,
It never
yeah.
happened.
So what
Hulk's there,
percentage
but
of this
yeah.
trailer
But
do we think is
Endgame,
misdirect?
Right, and Endgame when the ship lands, and I guess what turns out to be Tony Stark is landing. They don't show Pepper. Someone else was digitally removed or whatever have you, so it doesn't show the whole crew coming out from the Avengers compound to see. So yeah, you didn't get the whole.
Well,
so
and
I can see that stuff where you remove things.
They
But
did the same
spending
thing.
money
They did the
to
same
add
thing with,
stuff, that's not gonna-
Mando, when
Yeah.
there's that cool shot where he's just walking alone in the desert. He's not walking alone. Baby Grogu is right next to him. They just digitally removed him, you know? So, I mean, I get that part. That's cool. But, like, to build a TIE fighter and have it, like, I mean, it's just like, okay, now you're messing. So I don't know. Like Mercer, you have a good point. Like, is there anything that's in a swerve here because we're gullible for these trailers? We just love them,
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, and this is a perfect one too because it's all like a mind melt, anyways. So, like the first one I remember seeing, it was just like, we have to go see that immediately again because what did we just see? Technically, first and foremost, but the story in and of itself was the action, the technology, and the story. Nah, it was like a trifecta that it totally stood out.
Most of this new trailer is all callbacks to things that you recognize
Imagery,
from the earlier
right.
movies.
Which is what led me to the construction upon construction. So, like, even the White Rabbit girl, she's kind of different. Lawrence Fishburne,
Oracle,
he's not there.
Different.
Exactly,
different.
Everyone's younger or different, or what? And obviously both Neo and Trinity are different. And I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's what they're doing. Like, they're going to have the cameos and whatever have you. But in addition to that, they're going to have this uber construction to where I don't know if this is like eons in the future or this. I don't know where it will fall in the overall actual timeline. But the battle that we saw in the first three movies, that's just part of the engine. And it may just be, like I said, like one universe.
So, Bravo, are you looking at this like the concepts of the movie Inception? Or are you looking at this like emulators inside a computer?
And it's Inception with the layers mixed with. That's what
Inception
I'm saying. That's
and emulators.
right, but it's Inception, but it is the multiverse. So it's not only Inception, but Inception, like I guess what they're getting ready to do with Ant-Man and going into like the micro universe or whatever it's called. Very similar to that we're on a completely different plane that is similar to what we know from the first three movies, but it's on a different level. And that's what the adventure of this movie is figuring out where this movie places in everything. But I think I heard it coming in. I do think that the way it was framed in its summary, 2 and 3, let's really focus on how 1 made you feel. That's how I think it's going to be. So,
Like they're doing with Ghostbusters, kind of like, we're just gonna kind of pretend, just kind of ignore that last installment, but don't you remember Dan Aykroyd?
Right, exactly. Right. That was awesome.
I mean, we see the same thing with the Spider-Man. I mean, we've had 3 reboots.
Right.
It's a different story, or it's a different Spidey, but it's the same kind of story, you know. But they're kind of set in different universes, you know. It's kind of
that was what was fun about the differences between the 2 Spider-Mans was that they dealt with different characters. They dealt or not characters, but dealt with it from different perspectives.
Different perspectives, right?
Right.
But it's still
some
kind
of the
of
Batmans.
It's still kind of a reboot, you know.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
But I like how the MCU just kind of never shows how he got bid or anything. They just kind of jump in halfway through.
Well, but
we've seen this twice in the past 10 years.
Right, exactly.
Well, but I mean, again, with the Batman stuff, it's like, all right, how many times do you have to see his parents die. You know, like we know
Right.
that. Like, let's move on. You know, like
Mhm.
Right.
let's move on.
Or the
you know?
alley, you know, more specifically,
The crime alley. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The way Zack Snyder did it, it was kind of just the funeral, and it was really quick. And
Yeah.
whereas Chris Nolan tried to not reinvent the wheel, but it was much more cinema, you know,
Yes.
the way it was supposed to be, type thing.
Yes.
A representation like Tim Burton did.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm curious with Batman and Matrix, how deep into nostalgia or stuff that we've already seen are they actually going to go? Because what they showed us mimics.
It
but-
mimics the Matrix. It mimics the first
Right.
one, like Neo
Right.
following, like discovering, like trying to wake up and discovering the White Rabbit thing is following that path. Like, I need to do something more. So I kind of like your idea, Scott, where it's like maybe it's like Neo seeing somebody else go through that discovery, you know,
Right.
like he's on the outside. You know, and we see him take like a ton of blue pills, you know. I don't know if that's symbolism.
And that was the
Or-
other thing too, is that
Yeah.
he's taking the blue pill. And then when the not Lawrence Fishburne has the two pills up, he's like, boop, with the red one. And then
Yeah.
the story goes real quick. That's your red, by the way. I heard
Oh.
part of that. Did you see red in the movie? I was like, the pill. They show it. So
Yeah.
that's the only red that I noticed, to tell you the truth. I
And
totally
we got
focused on
a
that.
name for the blue pill as well.
Oh, did we?
Yeah,
we?
it's on the bottle. It's ontolofloxacin,
But that's
which is floxin is a drug for infections, and ontology is the study of existence or reality. So it's literally the blue pill is
infection.
literally
infects you with
views
reality.
Reality is the infection.
So when you take the red pill, I wonder what that is.
Yeah.
Ivermectin or something? I'm kidding.
This just turned into a pharmacy show, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But was there anything in the trailer that really jumps out at you?
For me, it's that last line. It's like, oh, now we get to go back into the Matrix or something. It's like, what does that mean? Like, are they like, did they recreate it? You know, it kind of goes back to our earlier discussion. Like that one, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. You
Right.
know?
Because I heard part of the discussion before about how the system realized that just having humans as batteries wasn't enough, that they had to dream, they had to have this sort of cycle. Okay, what if this is Neo's personal cycle? Because damn it, he will inevitably, always and forever, like Doctor Strange in the MCU, all these multiple variations. There's only one where it's not him, and it's where he's pacified with his own system. What if it's that?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is Neo's system, because the only reason I say that is because when I was watching to what you guys were saying before, what I was believing to be the Matrix. So not so much the programs that were run, the woman in the red dress, stuff like that, but when they were actually there and it was raining and stuff like, you know, that atmosphere, it didn't look green. It was more blue. You guys were talking about that before. But in addition to that, didn't it look very J.J. Abrams, like not lens flary, but kind of brighter?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot
So
of very clean colors.
High
I think-
contrast.
So it is a cut of different and above, like it is its own plane. That's how I viewed it. So that's why I sort of started leaning towards, if they were trying to pacify the one, what if he is held separate from everybody else and he just has his own system, which is just trying to fight him and keep him pacified, which is the Neo with the beard and the hair, who's confused and pills. He's the Neo. Not this iteration that has occurred, but he is that which everything spawns from. Because he is the ghost in the machine. He will always be the one that will always destroy or cause issues or not be happy or pull that thread or whatever have you. He is always destined.
A true self-discovery.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the only iteration where he has been 100% pacified. And this is his
Well, we literally
resurrection,
see,
because isn't it
in,
resurrections
Right.
plural? Isn't that the thing? So
And there's an office scene in the in the trailer, an explosion in an office, and the name of the office above the desk in the back is actually Deus Ex Machina. So it's God in the machine.
This
It's
is
like-
what I think. This
Right.
is
Layers.
like not
Right.
right. We're about to go on some magic carpet ride that we haven't the foggiest clue right now.
When he's talking to Neil Patrick Harris too, there's a black cat on the table.
There's so much stuff I can't
And it's
even.
like-
And I've seen it twice, and I'm like, okay, I guess too much overload. There was too much to it. I mean, I wasn't even really looking at it for this tonight necessarily. It was just the day of. But yeah, they're just throwing so much stuff out there that it's like.
And like the song choice is by
Listen to
Jefferson
lyrics.
Airplane, and
Right.
that song is called The White Rabbit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Listen to those lyrics, man.
It's about mind altering drug use.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Oh, we're in for a treat. It's gonna be crazy. Oh man, it's gonna be
And
like
so
a Grateful Dead reunion, but on the
Yeah, I
screen.
saw-
That's pretty
I
much
saw
what it's gonna be
somewhere.
like.
Now here's what's gonna bake your noodle is like the first gig that I saw this on the internet. The first gig that Jefferson Airplane played was at a venue called The Matrix.
See, stop it! I'm telling you, I
Bizarre.
dipped on some Reddit stuff, and I have seen.
Yeah,
I'm like, there's the what? Scroll down. Wait, the what? And I'm like, did we see the same trailer? But there's stuff that's just blowing up, and I'm like, oh, there's some heavy drug use going on right now.
Well, just the
'Cause there's-
layer upon layer upon layer of symbolism and use of words. I mean,
man.
even the word matrix is a Latin word that means womb. You know,
Look
it's,
at Todd, just smoke coming out. Wait a minute. In the first movie, hold on. Let me just.
What a weird thing to name your computer program. I'm just saying.
right. Yeah.
right,
No,
but
I
he's
know.
literally reborn from the Matrix, and I
Yes.
mean,
Well,
From the
like-
jelly thing, they cut the thing. He's birthed, and they pull it out.
Yeah.
And, yep.
And you get the I mean, that's probably one of my coolest sound effects ever in Matrix is the kind of modem sound. You know,
Oh,
that they
where the
make.
blue.
You know, it's like
Oh,
my
that
gosh.
part, yeah.
Yeah, that part.
Oh.
Yeah. When he's kind of getting consumed by the mirror, you know, he's kind of freaking out, and he has that.
Isn't it like when
kinda-
they go on the phone too? When they get pulled
Yeah.
into the phone, it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
oh, that
Yeah.
modem. Damn that modem noise!
Yeah,
That thing is like that's a curse. Curse everyone on the planet and their
that no
families
millennium
who were involved in making that sound, because that sound is forever. And that scratching. Get off the phone, mom.
Oh,
So
the
much-
waiting for the little
so much
AOL
pain.
thing to change and go to like the
Little man.
second tier, and then
Yeah.
you just wait.
When then he would start to run, and he'd be like, "Yes, yes, no,
No.
something went wrong."
All right,
Foiled
when it
again.
stalled,
Man, dial-up
times.
internet. I do not miss dial.
Good time.
I remember the first
No.
person we knew that had DSL. It was like, you don't have to.
Well, in the 80s, my brother had a thing where we actually had the modems from like war games where you put
Yeah.
the phone, your
Yep.
phone on the thing. We had that. yeah.
Oh,
That's the
We
first
totally,
one. I
yeah.
ever
My
used.
brother, my oldest brother's almost 8 years older than me. So there was this whole generational thing. And yeah,
on like
So-
a Tandy computer.
yeah, right.
Commodore or
Commodore.
we had a Mac,
C4.
but that was more for like word processing in school and stuff like that. Dot matrix printer and whatever. But yeah, we had one of those program. I don't
Oh,
I don't know what computer you had.
Oh,
The
that sounds
dot
familiar.
matrix. Oh, I kind of
That has some-
you
it's
tear
not
off the
related.
paper,
I'm sure.
you tear off the sides because it was all
Yes, terrible.
the get that stuff totally. It's
Yeah.
off center. I gotta. Yeah, good times.
Yeah. So what do
What
you guys think of that? The one cool shot where again it looks like he's playing the gentleman that looks kind of like the new Morpheus, and he kind of he's like he has that training session which is also awesome in the Matrix, but then in this one he kind of like almost blows the dojo up with like one punch.
Right,
What did you
right.
guys think of that? What did you guys think of that?
I just imagine it's a new level of power.
Mm,
You know, it just has unlocked a new
he leveled up.
level of yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's a digital world. There's unlimited power, right? Like,
Mm.
what are the limits of what you can do.
But I mean, every time we see him essentially die, he comes back more powerful.
Yeah.
And the last time we saw him was, after defeating Agent Smith in the Matrix,
All
and
the agents.
we were left not knowing if he was
all the
dead or
Agent
not.
Smiths.
Right.
Oh,
and
that's
that
true.
perhaps he slipped out. You know what I'm saying? He slipped out into the beyond, and he got out of that one channel. That
Oh,
one, that Morpheus and like the characters we know was one universe or channel
and that
or
could kind of play
program or
into
system.
right, and that could technically play into why Trinity doesn't recognize him. Like, who are you?
Right.
Because that's a
Right.
totally different either iteration
maybe
of the
this-
Matrix. Yeah.
Maybe this is the first iteration of something new. With Neo, I still think I think they're treating Neo separately. I still, for whatever reason, I'm holding on to that. I think that this is like his own personal, whereas the other one was much more of a save Zion and a team effort and that kind of thing. I think this one's going to be much more of a personal story for Neo than
because like
trying
all
to
of
ultimately
Oracle's-
save Zion.
Yeah, like all of Oracle's prophecies play into that self-discovery for everyone, and it's like you said, it's like a team goal. It's all a team goal. It's not, something separate. So
Right, because Neo needed Trinity and Morpheus. He
Needed-
needed to go through. I forget his name. The guy with the stake who backstabs him, the bald dude. Neo needs that, at least in that
Cypher.
iteration.
Yeah,
Cypher.
Cypher.
Oracle knew that he needed to go through that hell specifically, much like Yoda does with Luke and the cave. Has to go through a special kind of hell to become the Neo he needs to be. I forget. It's one of those popular thoughts as far as superhero movies go, is that the hero has to go through the ultimate hell, has to be drugged through the ringer, dropped to the absolute bottom, so that when they then rise to the top and defeat or overcome whatever have you, the audience is there and they're just like, and then that's how the hero's journey is supposed to go.
yeah.
So that
I mean, but
returning
like, again,
back to something like that.
yeah,
with
I mean, that's
him
where,
being the singular.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's where Neo makes that choice too, which is probably my favorite part in the Matrix. Is like, Oracle tells basically to run. Like you once you get to these agents, you got to run. And he sees the opening and he stands his ground. And that he's like, I can do this. And I think that's part of his hero's journey, obviously in the Matrix. With,
But
with
what
Agent
will
Smith.
really bake your noodle is, I think that's what the Oracle said.
Yeah, make your noodle,
But-
right.
She knew he would disobey her. So she had to give him the choice he would disobey. That was his part of, at that point in the hero's journey. Had he ran,
Yes.
you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And
I
so
got you.
he
It's a
couldn't
trick
have.
every parent knows.
Yes.
Correct. Correct. And so because, what's the spoon? Well, what'll really bake your noodle is that there is no spoon. And he's like, he's not ready. He's Luke before Luke goes into the cave.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's trying to make the spoon bend. You can't bend a spoon. If the spoon's not there and you're Neo and this is all fabricated, the spoon's not there. A spoon can turn into a duck. So that's what she's trying to get him to realize. But that iteration is not at that maturity level. I think this next one is. I think that's why they kept the John. No, he's doing John Wick 4. So I mean, but as far as working it into the story,
hair.
right? Exactly, the hair, the beard. They could do it as though, like I said, it's. This is not the Mr. Anderson that we knew. This is a completely different. It's Matrix-ish, but yeah, it's gonna blow your mind because I think that that's how I just took it. Like very trippy looking. We're gonna take you on a magic carpet ride kind of brain thing. Hopefully, it's like Nolan and not silly. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right.
Like
but
Inception.
I think that's part of what made the Matrix even more appealing than 2 and 3 is that you're on the journey together. You're just trying to figure out like, is Morpheus selling them
And the
some
first
stuff?
time
Like, are
he
they
does that
yeah,
nonsense, and you're like, What did
Yeah,
I
and then
just
I
see?
mean,
Yeah,
it takes
you
a
can't
couple
replicate
iterations. It takes a couple viewings to understand the colors are different, and like there's a lot of layer. I
Right,
mean, it's
right,
it's a very there's a lot of
right.
layers that and I think I'm hoping again what we're getting in for here is that something like that where you kind of keep on peeling back the onion, and you get that kind of Inception feel, like you're saying with Nolan's.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, yeah, I need to go back, like because this is like
hmm
really deep,
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, anyways.
So one of the themes that was kind of running, and like y'all said, we may be picking up and feeding way more off just the first movie than the second and third. But one of the themes that really was playing out in the third was that the machines were becoming more like humans.
Hmm.
With love and other emotions, even though the answer was, well, it's love, it's a word. It's not a thing, it's not a real thing, it's a word that, defines something in our code. But the machines were becoming more human, and then this trailer kind of kicks off with the elevator scene with all the people on their phones. Are we going to play on an idea of the machines have become more human, but now the humans are becoming more like the machine?
I could
That
see
would
that.
definitely be an interesting theme.
Because if this is the first iteration of all of this, if you follow it back to that, if this is not an end game scenario, but this is a beginning or an origin story to the Mr. Anderson that we, in theory, like, this is a prequel, if you will.
Right.
And if it's told in that fashion where, well, no, I'm confusing myself because I liked what was being said, because no, what I'm thinking is that they're like, they have these different channels where they're like, okay, we figured out that he has to fall, or by him falling in love with this woman, these chain of events occur. John
Right.
Connor must die. You see what I'm saying? So now a new branch is set up
Mm.
where John Connor dies, or he doesn't fall in love with Trinity, or she dies earlier. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's these multiple. The computer is constantly. Well, shit, he beat us here. Well, damn it, and it's this constant game thing where they just literally go, all right, that happened. Let's tweak this. Boom.
But John
Next time,
Connor's in Terminator. You're mixing
no,
franchises.
I know, but that's the thing, is that
This
that
is the
point in
John Wick
time,
Is he
origin.
really?
right? Going back to that, we've so many metaphors, but going back to that point in time, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
Like a
I know what you're
specific
saying. I
moment,
know what you're saying.
killing Sarah before John's
Yes.
born,
Yes.
type of mentality.
Yes.
Right. And so this is the
Kill.
John Wick origin story, right?
Right. Yeah,
Correct. That's my point. That's what I was
well,
saying
that's why
with Deadpool.
That's what. Right. That's why he's keeping
John Wick
that's why-
meets Deadpool. Wouldn't that be
Right.
a damn movie? I'd be first in line for that thing. Oh my goodness. Oh geez.
All right. So what do y'all think before we wrap up? Just kind of looking at the way movies are being released now, and Disney is going full bore back to theater. But they're going to
because they
do
got
it.
sued. They got sued by Scarlett.
They did, but they're also they're making more money doing the theater release. I mean, it looks like the dual release or the streaming service only release is a losing proposition for these big budget movies. And but their
if I
HBO
don't-
is, or Warner
Yeah.
is still full bore going to do
Yeah.
whatever they can to
Yeah.
ramp up numbers.
But see,
I
that's the
think-
problem
I
that
thought
there
I
is
read-
that
I
they're
thought
not
that-
showing their numbers.
True.
Yeah, I think part of it is that I believe AMC and Warner
Right.
made a deal that they're going to flip it. So after
Mhm.
this year, it's like a short 45-day window. So they're going to do
Right.
release. So HBO Max won't get that day one
No.
release. It'll
No.
all
In
be
2020, right.
yeah, I'll be back to the 45-day window, which makes sense. I mean, who's the girl that's directing? Patty Jenkins. She's coming back and saying like any any movie that goes right to TV is a fake film. I don't buy that. I mean, they're made the same. It's just the format. But you do lose. I think I just don't see how studios are making money on a streaming service. I just don't. I don't get it. I mean,
And they do their own numbers. Hey, we
Yeah.
did a trillion people watched this one show
Yeah.
in the first 25 seconds. Well, what the hell? We all saw Bird. What was that? The Bird was a Birdcage, and they hyped that thing up and said Bird Box.
Yeah.
They hyped that thing up, and everyone watched it. Was
Chicago.
like, right, exactly. But the one thing I did want to say though was the oh man, I lost my train of thought. What you were just talking about, I thought that there was a trick to the Warner Brothers thing. That's what it was. That they tell us what their numbers are, whereas with the box office,
It's
for lack,
universal.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, people
It
can.
can't be skewed. It can't be skewed.
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
The industry's been having a fit about Netflix for years, not sharing numbers.
Right.
Oh,
And I think that's where Warner Brothers is they're betting on that. And I think they're still high from the Zack Snyder Justice League kind of mentality. I don't think that this is that. I think they really need to give it its time. Think movies that are made for theaters really need their time in theaters, especially with Warner Brothers and DC. I really don't know what they're doing.
Well, a
really
movie
silly.
like
Matrix, it's so visual.
right, a movie like this, I don't want to see it on my TV. Like I want to see this in the theater.
Yeah.
And then I want to see it on my TV.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
For shows like this where I could just pick it apart like 80 times. Right.
Because I got a big ass TV.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
right. Well, I mean,
Andrew?
I was just gonna say that's where technology's at, right? So, but there is like, I mean, I saw
Big ass TVs.
Yeah, right, exactly. That are cheap.
Said that on the tag.
My grandpa says.
Yeah.
Brand name, big ass TV.
Yeah, I mean, like in the 80s, going back to the 80s, a VCR at one point was like $1,800.
Yeah.
So it forced you to go to the theater. Like I could spend $5 and be in the theater and watch this awesome movie.
I mean, heck, a VHS tape cost a fortune by itself when they first came out.
Well,
Right.
that's why
Yeah, they
Beta
were almost
even had
$100.
its time.
Well,
Yeah, that's why
and,
Beta even have its time, because it was competition. It was cheaper,
Right. It's cheaper.
and it was a smaller version. And because remember the VCRs?
Yeah.
Remember these things? They were like that, and the
Yeah.
and the thing would
Yeah.
come up. You put the had to push it.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. They take
but
up all that space.
But that was the same thing with like plasma and LEDs and all this stuff. I mean, a good
Laserdisc.
TV, Laserdisc, and all that stuff. I mean, those cost a fortune. But now you can get like a really nice TV for $400. You're like, this is awesome, And so, and that's
All the
where-
bells and whistles.
Yes, right, exactly. So it doesn't cost you $3,000 to get the most high tech thing, So
No.
I think like I just saw Shang-Chi in theaters, and I'm so glad I did, because I'm like that was a movie that I wanted to see in the theater, and it was well worth it. I just think movies should be on the TV. I mean, there's a place for all the kind of cool stuff that's going on in TV space right now. That's a great place for it. But like some of these movies just going directly to TV, you just lose it. It doesn't become a social. It's like not a social experience anymore. So
I think that's why Wonder Woman 84 really fell flat.
yeah.
Well, it wasn't.
It also had two beginnings, so that's the other thing with that.
It wasn't an amazing film. I'm not at all implying that.
Right.
But people watched it at home, and then they were underwhelmed, and so they didn't talk about it.
Right.
And if you're watching it at home, it's way easier to get 30 minutes into it and go, yeah, I'm not feeling it. Just turn it
Right.
off.
Kind of do this number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're
let's not
plugged
kid
into your
ourselves,
phone?
That's what I did.
Oh,
That's
no.
what I did. Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, and I use that now to mark a good movie. If I'm 20, 30 minutes into it and I pick up my phone, it's not a good movie.
Yeah. I'm not engaged, right?
You
'Cause
should-
if-
And that's some of the
you
things
should-
going
you
to
should have like some kind of rating system, we
Yeah.
got to figure out a nice
how
rating
quickly
system.
he picked up his phone. Because I've done
20,
that.
30,
Like,
40 minutes.
all right, how much longer do we have of this thing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I've done
Yep.
that. But the 20 minutes in, yeah, if you're doing that, it's
I
time
mean,
to
I
go.
think part of it, unfortunately, is that's just where we're all at with our attention spans, and you lose again when you're in a movie. It's like, well, I already paid all this money and I'm eating my popcorn. That's $20 or whatever. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy it.
I'm
even though,
sitting here regardless.
and you brought it up
You
before,
know,
Bravo.
I
You
might
brought it up
stay
before, but
twice.
you know, I couldn't tell you how many 80s and 90s movies I saw. I was like, meh. You know,
I
like
threw
every-
money at the screen, like
yeah.
popcorn. Oh man!
But I went to see it because there wasn't an alternative. Where there's
Mhm.
so many different alternatives now that's where it's at. It's like if this is not grabbing me right away, I'm okay, or I'm gonna move to a different series or whatever. But like when you're locked into a theater, I mean, there's an investment, and you're like, all right, well, my time, I need to watch this and see what's going on.
Will people throw things at me as I sneak out? You know, because I always sit like.
Do you
Like I'll be
guys
the stand up, I'm all on the screen with the shadow and stuff. Like that guy's
any of you
leaving.
guys remember
Boo.
back in the 80s going to the movies just because it was hot? You go to the
Yes.
theater because they had AC.
Yes,
It didn't
yeah.
matter what the hell was on. You were watching
Oh.
just garbage.
You also
Man,
live in the deep south.
Well, there's that.
Deep.
But my mom would drop us all off at the movie theaters while the moms all went off to the mall. That
Mhm.
was just down the street. And we'd goof off. Right next door was like a arcade with like go-kart racing type stuff. So it was this whole like we just let loose, go see a movie, 2, 3, whatever, or go do all that stuff.
And if it was super good, you find a payphone and call and be like, "Hey, mom," on her, car phone.
Well, that was before pagers too.
Or
yeah,
pager,
before
pager. You have a code,
car phone.
like a come pick me up.
car phone, you had to
number,
pull the
and it's like,
antenna out. It was like, Rick,
Yeah.
pull
You
over.
had-
Hold
you had,
on.
like the crank,
Charge
you
up the
know,
thing. Oh my goodness! It came with that brick.
Yeah, we're
That
watching
brick batter.
Hook, and the kids are like, "What is that thing?" Like,
Yeah,
well,
last night
children, back in the
What was it?
day.
on the nerd podcast of Scuttlebutt, we were talking about the rotary phones.
Yes.
Chantal.
Yeah.
So, I remember those, and I was like, "It was at your grandma's house, wasn't it?" She was like, "Yep." I was in my house.
I remember
Long
having one
ass
of those
cord.
in my room.
Yeah.
My mom had the one where she'd go in the closet and close the door so she could talk privately.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fun times, good times. Oh my goodness. Kids
All
don't
right.
know how they have it.
Right.
No,
Right.
crazy.
Right. Exactly.
That is the truth.
They live in the
Dadgum-
Matrix, man.
Yeah, that's
they
right.
have a dadgum tablet. Like whenever I went on a 12-hour trip as a kid, I had to be miserable the whole time.
Mhm.
They get
Are
to
we
sit
there
back
yet?
there and watch
Are we
movies
yet?
and play video games. How is that fair?
Poke your brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I no, it was like you get a quarter to the
Will you
next
stop
press
touching
shop.
me?
Yeah. You get a quarter for if you don't touch your brother or sister.
Right? Exactly.
I remember when I got my first Walkman, how much better
Oh.
road trips were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
but then there were the CD players, like in the late '90s, and whenever you hit a bad bump, they would jump, and then you had to like hope it didn't scratch your CD.
We had a station wagon. There were no seatbelts.
Oh,
And we get all uppity in the back. My dad go over like railroad tracks too fast. Oh, you want to make fun of my driving? All right.
no.
We hit the railroad tracks. And all three of us like, whoa, have that Apollo 13 where we just like float, come back down.
Wow.
Dad,
That's
well,
awesome, yeah.
quit mouthing off. Yeah. But yeah, our kids live in the Matrix, by the way.
Yeah, right. In conclusion,
We live
Matrix.
where it's raining and it's dark and it's grimy.
Yeah.
Generation X.
But I mean, like
Yeah.
they're growing up like in a place where anything they want to know is at their fingertips.
Yeah.
They're all
You have
Cypher
to
eating
look
a steak.
things up in
Yeah.
the encyclopedia. Like, I don't know who is successor to Henry VIII. Go look it up.
What the hell's an encyclopedia?
Does,
Right?
does anybody
I heard-
else experience this with their kids? They'll come and ask you a question. You go, Google it. You're holding your phone. You have the internet.
Right.
in
I
your
was just
hand.
looking something up. What is
Ask
this?
Google.
Just continue the thought. Open a new tab.
Yeah. I
Right.
would look at my son and say, I don't know. Hold on.
Right.
As
Or
you're
you
both
say,
looking at
Hey, Google.
And then hand him back his phone. There you go, son.
Oh, look. Google thinks I'm
you
talking
just
to this.
all you're doing
Yeah,
is
you-
providing a better search engine. You're like, I'll search more specifically for you. Don't worry. Yeah.
Right. Dad is a search engine.
Yeah,
We've
right.
become
right.
Alexa. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Dad, and we're somewhere in the house. We're passively listening. We're like, yeah. What's the answer to MISSISSPPI? Thanks, Dad. All right, that's what we are. As we look it up on our phone.
Right.
Right, exactly.
It's a lot easier to pretend like you're smart than it used to be. Like you can, you're having a conversation, and
Well,
like you have no idea they're talking
but
about.
But when-
and like,
it does kill the conversation, because it's like you have this collective of trying to solve an issue,
Right.
and like you have this thing, and like everyone's memory and perspective is different, so that's where you have that conversation. You kind of fill in the gaps together. Now it's like if somebody doesn't know anything, everyone's just like, just look at your phone. Like,
Right,
yeah, I
but when you
remember
look,
this, and
but
it's like,
now when you look dumb, you look dumb.
Dumb,
I mean,
right.
DUM capitalized, dumb.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you like our kids, grown ass people, like, how do you look at your phone? Shh,
Yeah.
just right, just
I had a lady today at work. Something had flashed out of the news, and she just shook her head and she's like, "You know what? It's just all communism." And I was like, "Listen, pull up your phone and look up what communism is, because I don't think you have a firm grasp on what the hell's going on."
just throwing
Hey,
out
look,
words. Is it communism? Shut
people-
up, Tom.
People say strange things. I mean, I do real estate appraisals. I go in people's houses, and I'm standing in a person's house and say, "Hey, I need to know where the entrance to the attic is." "Oh, I don't have an attic." It's like, no, you definitely have an attic. It's like,
You mean
you have
that
a
thing from the outside of the house? It's quite
Yeah.
clear.
I mean, the Alamo has a basement. You definitely have an attic.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Before we wrap up for the night, anybody have any last thoughts on the trailer?
I'll
I'm
go
I'm
first.
in. I'm
Yeah,
throwing
I'll
my
go-
money.
Just throw your money. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing. We're all going to pay to see it. It's not
It's-
like we're not. Let's
Yeah.
not pretend.
No, there's
As
so
of
much
today, right?
awesome looking stuff coming out for the rest of the year. So
There's a ton of stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
shout out
I
to
mean-
Lunar- oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it just makes us excited. For me, it makes me excited to go back to the theater for this. And
Yeah.
like, I don't have a Star Wars movie in December, but I got this, and
That's
I'm
something.
looking to see this a couple times, because I did the
Oh
same
yeah.
with the Matrix when it came out. I was like, we gotta go back this week. Let's go.
Well, I'm gonna have it. It's not that it's because of language or anything like that, but my youngest is 14, so now she's gonna get into the Matrix before it comes out in theaters and stuff.
Yeah.
Not so much the second two. I don't really need to show them that. No, really. For the context
Yeah.
of this, from what I'm understanding, I think that the first one is plenty.
Yeah.
The other two for her right now, nah, we're not.
Yeah.
That's too much, man. It was too much for me, and I was in my 20s when that crap came out. I was like,
Mhm.
what? Did I drop something? Where's my what? It was just oozing out. What was the second one?
yeah.
with the architect, and they just taught. And like,
hmm
what are we? What,
Well,
what?
the third one came out as I was taking final exams in school, and we took an exam, and we walk out the door, and like three people were like, "Hey, we're going to the theater to see the third Matrix movie. You want to go?" I was like, "Sure." And I'm just sitting there, having been studying for weeks for finals, and it's just
baked noodle.
You're gonna have to take notes during this movie.
right.
Like I did not sign up for another lecture. Thank you.
Wait.
Crying in the theater.
Wait.
Yeah.
Agent Smith is like a human, and
Right.
And there's
they like
700 of them?
dancing to rave music. It's industrial music. It's like, what's
The
going
lights
on?
come up. You're just laying in your chair like a wet noodle, just like just a husk, just an absolute husk of yourself. What happened to that guy? Oh, he had finals before this. Oh,
Oh,
Bless him.
makes
All
sense.
right, guys. Well, let's go around the room real quick. Tell everybody where they can find you on the socials. Don?
You can find me at Della Snooch on Instagram and at Jetfire1979 on Twitter, and you can find the Escape Pod on YouTube 7:05 live Eastern every Wednesday night.
Sounds like a
All right.
wrestling
Oh.
show. That's awesome. 7:05 live.
That's why we start at 7:05.
nice.
Nice.
Sunday,
dude, I like it.
Sunday,
It's
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
All right,
Big
Todd.
monster truck stuff.
Personally, you can follow me at Tizza TI4ZOD on Instagram and Twitter, and then WSTR Media all one word, all lowercase on Instagram and Twitter.
All right, Bravo.
97 Bravo, just like on the screen there. Twitter, my website.com, and YouTube and Twitch. So you could just search me that way.
All right, and I want to say thanks again to Ro for letting me drive the ship tonight, and thanks to everybody that joined us in the chat.
Yeah, especially Lunar Girl, our last man standing there, still,
Right.
still chatting away.
She's
And,
diehard.
Yes.
She's the best.
Heck yeah.
And Marisha, where can people find you online?
Oh, I don't like the internet anymore. It makes me
Oh.
depressed. No, I really am occasionally on Twitter. I'm P Padawans on Twitter. And even more occasionally, I am princesses_and_Padawans on Instagram. He always laughs. It looks good, like y'all. It does. It looks nice whenever it's written out. It just sounds dumb when I say it.
It's not as bad as Brady's. Brady's is underscore 00 big lovin' 00 underscore.
Oh no!
It looks really cool, but it's nonsense when you say it.
You just have to show somebody. Just hand them cards. Here you go.
Yeah, right.
That's what it is.
Here's a QR code. Put this in, man.
Exactly. Those are fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can follow this show at Scarif Podcast on Twitter. You can find stuff here on YouTube. You can find them anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find mine and Marisha's show, Coruscant Radio Underground, at crew_podcast on Twitter, and the Science Fictionary podcast at sci_fictionary. And that's the scuttlebutt.